So now that we've talked about the types of activity, both aerobic and resistance activity, let's talk a little bit about how much activity we should actually do. So the United States government recommends about 150 minutes of activity per week, and this comes down to, if you divide it evenly by the 7 days, this comes down to about 20 minutes per day. But say that you're not as active as recommended, you can even start with even 5 to 10 minutes per day and work your way to your goal from there. And then a last point that I want to emphasize is that not all of the activity needs to be completed all in one bout. So if you can only spread your activity throughout the day for scheduling purposes, say you have a lot of activities to attend throughout the community, or if you are just unable to complete a full session in one go, it is completely fine to start with even 5 minutes per each session. So say 5 minutes in the morning after breakfast, you go for a brisk 5-minute walk, and then after lunch you decide to go for another walk, and then before dinner you decide to go to the gym and cycle for at least 5 minutes before you make your way to the dining room. Each of those 5-minute sessions has equaled or totaled to your 15-minute session for that day. So that's another good point that I want to emphasize once again, is that it does not need to be all in one go, but if you're scheduling purposes, if it works better to exercise throughout the day, or if you are just more inclined to exercise that way and it works better for your personality, then exercising throughout the day works, then you should continue doing that as well. Okay, so now we'll go through and review what we've talked about today in this portion of the seminar. We reviewed that diabetes affects several systems, involving blood vessels, so that uncontrolled diabetes or high levels of blood in the sugar in the blood stream can affect your eyes, it can affect your kidneys, it can affect your nerves, it can affect so many different systems in your body. Some of the benefits of changing would be reducing those risks of complications, including potential blindness or issues with your kidneys, or issues with your nerves and feeling in your feet, and lowering healthcare costs. And so we learned that a lot of the money for healthcare is designated for diabetes care, or ends up going towards diabetes care. So if you prevent that early on, then healthcare costs will be reduced in those areas. And then a couple of ways that we can prevent diabetes from becoming uncontrolled and leading to these complications are diet, which is using the plate method as we discussed, and then also physical activity. So for the aerobic activity, which is that activity that gets your heart rate elevated, which is recommended at least 3 to 5 times per week, and then also the resistance training, which is recommended at least 1 to 2 times per week. So that is the end of my educational presentation portion of my seminar. If you have any questions, then we can go into a portion of questions now. But I would like to thank you very much for attending my session, and thank you very much for your interest.